Welcome to Real Herbalism Radio, recorded live at River Road Studios. Today's show is brought to you by Get Healthy Now with Candace.
Get healthy now, not later, not before, already now, and not tomorrow, now, right?
Okay, right now.
If you'd love to do a consult and look at ways that you can get more healthy in your life, that you can improve your current feelings of wellness and lifestyle, give me a shout. You can look me up at gethealthynow.com or gethealthynowwithcandace.com.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Occupy Medical.
Occupy Medical is changing. We have...
What?
Yes, I know. It's really weird, but I've always in the past said we're a street reach, and we're still doing street reach. We're just doing it a different way. We have a place in Springfield, and we also have a clinic that we have opened and have been doing for the last couple of months in Eugene, and that's the street reach part where we're specifically working with people that are unhoused. The clinic that we have in Springfield is a building, and we have two suites of it. And one part is for hygiene supplies and food for people that are struggling. They can just come in and get whatever they need. Mm-hmm. And then we have the other part, which is the medical part with the herbal part of it, and then the counseling as well as the integrated health part. And that is just because we have a place, just like anybody that's coming out of being unhoused to being housed, they find all of a sudden all of these survival skills that they needed to have time for. They don't need to have time for it anymore because, they got four walls around us, and that's the same thing for us. So it's been great to be able to burst out and do a whole bunch more projects. So
how can people contribute?
Well, we are a 501c3, and that is there's a bunch of information that we have on Facebook and Twitter and on our website at occupy-medical.org.
All right. And we're now, our next sponsor is Mud Paw Design House. It's, formerly Hunter Creation. This is the first time we're talking about it over the air, if you will. So Mud Paw Design House is a company that Candace and I run and own, and it is graphic design and website design. If you're looking for a website that will match your branding of your printed materials, we can help you out. Or if you have printed materials and need a website, we can help you out with that too. So let us know at mudpahdesignhouse.com.
That's a mud paw, like a dog paw. That's muddy.
Design.com or mudpahdesignhouse.com.
That's cute.
Right. All right. And how about you, Sue?
What about me?
What do you bring to the table?
What do I bring to the table? Well, I've got two. Should I just talk about the two things real quick?
Sure.
I'll talk about Patreon first. So I mentioned before about Occupy Medical, and I do a lot of stuff just during the week working with people that I cannot bill them. I just can't. They don't have any money. But being a community herbalist, the work, I've been doing this for so long, the work just has to be done. So I am asking for people to donate to my Patreon account so that I can continue working with people. And with that kind of sponsorship, that means that I could also continue training other folks that want to open up clinics like we have. And I've been doing that. And I've just been kind of doing it for free. So we need community herbalism in this country, and I am willing to be the voice of experience. So I just need support from people. And you can go to my Patreon account at www.patreon.com/SueSierraLupe.
Okay. That's really cool.
Yep. That's just one of them.
Do you have any more? Do you have any supporters already?
So I do. I have a couple of wonderful supporters that have been brave enough to put in for one of them as a one-time supporter, and then the others are monthly supporters.
Nice.
Yep.
So all right. Did you have something else?
Very much. Yes. So there's also Sierra Lupe Herbal Consulting, and that's at gmail.com, and that is my business that I do herbal consulting, and that is for people get charged per hour for that one. So that's that. They get the same kind of service. And I can come to people's houses and do things online, and that's available. So you've heard the genius. Now you can have that in your life too.
All right. Ace High Heat Graphics, custom imprinted shirts and caps and everything else that you can wear. They're specializing in event wear. So if you are an herbal organization and you are putting on a fair or a festival and you need to have 200-300 shirts done, that Ace High Heat Graphics can help you out and save you a lot of money.
Yeah.
The other thing that Ace High Heat Graphics is doing is also doing branded wear for companies. So for within the company. So if you are a herbal organization and you have employees and people and volunteers that you want to have them all wearing like the same shirts, or they would like to support the company by purchasing a shirt, that's another thing that Ace High Heat Graphics does.
We're in fact we're doing a company store for a large client right now, so their employees can go there and buy their shirts. We did a promotion for that company, and all the employees liked the shirts so much that they wanted to buy them for workwear.
Nice.
So they said, "Can you help us with that?" So we're setting them up with an online store.
That's really cool. And with the political season brewing up, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would want their slogans written on their shirts too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. And finally, the Herbal Nerd Society, for which we would not be able to do any of this.
Right.
Right.
Yes. We are thankful for the Herbal Nerd Society.
When I don't want to come here some days and record because I got other things to do, I just remember there's a bunch of Herbal Nerd Society members paying me to get here.
Yeah, I know. And they get content every single week. We put an article together. I've been banging my head against the keyboard this month for Spilanthes.
Right, me too. That one's a challenging one because it's not as well promoted an herb.
Yeah.
Even though it is a really wonderful herb.
It really is. I mean, I use it in the
Powerful
clinic
plant.
a lot, and doing all this research, like, man, I'm underutilizing this plant.
Right. Yes, and I'm doing the research on it, but it's challenging to find herbal energetics on it. It's pretty sparse because it's not a part of the traditional Ayurvedic or TCM pantheons, and it's certainly was probably used by traditional Western herbalists way back when, but there's not a ton on it. So I'm finding that really interesting.
Well, it's a fabulous plant. I remember being in the South. Just you cannot miss it because it's a little red dot, and it's I'm in love with it. So I'm learning things, and I love sharing the things I'm learning with other people.
So above and beyond the more advanced herbal articles for the Herb of the Month, we also have access to all of the old podcasts from which we realized today we've done this for about 6 years now. So we have 180 episodes, 160 of which are in the backlog. So you have 160 episodes of podcasts that you can get a hold of if you're the Practical or the Herbal Nerd Society member. And also you get an ad-free viewing experience. No pop-ups, no banner ads, no Google ads. It's just straight content.
Yep. And the Let's Talk series, where we have a section where people can listen to some of our guests give a specific information about their chosen topic.
That's right. All right, on with the show. Welcome to Real Herbalism Radio. This is show 183. It's our Herb Lab show, and today we're talking about cannabis, and we're talking about the growing of it. And we had Andy Harpole from Emerald Valley Growers here last week. It was a great conversation, and it was fun to talk to him about what was happening in the cannabis industry, how he started, where he came from, and the strength of cannabis and how that's really kind of affecting us herbal medicine makers. So without further ado, Candace Hunter. Well, here are your hosts, Candace Hunter and Susie Lupe.
I'm Candace Hunter.
And I'm Susie Lupe. And welcome to Real Herbalism Radio. Woohoo! Okay. Here we go. Cannabis.
All right. So Andy was here. It was really interesting from a construction worker to a cannabis grower, and apparently a pretty good one because he's one of the few that are still in business. So
right.
That are actually making money at. In fact, he's expanding his operation into CBD growing. So pretty cool. So I thought it was a great show. Interesting because I don't know that I've heard of any other podcast with a grower on it that comes in and talks about growing.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I liked how he was talking about they grow a variety of different vegetables. And I always see tomato is one of the closest proximities to growing cannabis. If you can get a tomato in a hothouse, then you can do a cannabis plant in a hothouse because they're just as fragile. Yeah. So the soil type depends on what you get and the way you treat the root system and the light and the leaves and the temperature.
Yeah.
It's the poodle of the plant world.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, poodle owners are now going to send me hate mail, but okay.
Poodles are quite sturdy dogs.
Not according to vets.
Wow.
Okay.
Vets complain about all purebred dogs pretty much.
Sidetrack.
Well, actually.
Rabbit hole.
All right. Anyway, so it's difficult. And for him to say, yeah, there's the diversity of plants that as vegetables that we grow, that one has made me a better cannabis grower because there's so many different ways that we're growing cannabis to get different strains, constituents, even the same strain or the same hybrid, just a different temperature or a different light source or a different something in the soil or whatever, that is making a difference in what they get as their product from.
Yeah.
So that experience helped him be this very productive person, and he's documenting everything.
Well, I love the fact that he talked about how each strain is different. I mean, it's all cannabis, but each strain is different, has different specific requirements. And then within the set of requirements that, this particular strain needs that you're providing, if you make, the light a little bit brighter, or if you make the water cycle a different cycle or whatever, you start playing with the variables, you get really different results in the end constituents. The ones that they're specifically looking for, the THC and the cannabis, the CBD and other, the cannabinoids.
For now, right.
Yeah, that they're looking for. I mean, it flexes those a lot, but I like the fact that he talked about that because we see that in the rest of the plant world too. Like for instance, the mushrooms you get at the grocery store, the portobellas, the cremones, and then the white ones, which are all the exact same agaricus species, just different, different lights. The brown ones were exposed to sunlight and the white ones were not.
Right.
The portobella is just the fully formed adult form of the
button mushroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we see that already as just common. And I love the fact that he's talking about it's essentially the same thing with growing cannabis. Now, what we really need to see is the accessibility to whole plant cannabis instead of just the bud.
Right. Well, that's the nature nurture debate that we have with humans, and it applies to plants too. So is it all genetics? No. Is it all environment? No. Is it a whole bunch of stuff? Yeah.
Kind of a mess, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But the bigger the mess, the better the medicine you get out of it, right?
Yep.
I mean,
chaos makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Gives you it does. Good thing, huh? Woo!
What is that old saying? Whatever doesn't kill you, it just makes you stronger.
Whatever kills you makes you dead.
Whatever kills you makes you dead. Yeah.
Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Okay.
Makes you bitter and spiteful. That's what it works for me.
All right.
Yeah. And the comfrey study.
Yeah, I think the thing that I find most frustrating about what's happening to the discussion regarding cannabis, not just within the growing and the mainstream community, but also within the herbal and medicine community, is we have this heavy focus on just THC and CBD and the specific set, even the cannabinoids, just the specific set of molecules, which is fine. We do that with things like comfrey, and we do that with like elecampane, but we use the whole plant. Comfrey, the whole plant, elecampane, the whole plant. Cannabis, we keep upping specific constituents. We're selecting for that. And we're trying to essentially turn it into a drug. We're only using one part of the plant. It's taking it further and further from the natural remedy it really can be and was meant to be or could be. And that's frustrating to me. And the more that you concentrate it, I think the more dangerous it becomes. I mean, these high levels of THC, it's like it's becoming more pharmaceutical.
Right. We have receptors in our bodies for these different plant chemicals, but how much can our bodies that aren't changing as fast as these plants, what can our bodies tolerate without it becoming a problem? So that whole, cannabis, it's great for everybody and it'll never kill you, it'll never that. Well, at the time,
yeah,
but
it used to be we could say things like
another
that.
Another 5-10 years, maybe not. Maybe it'll be a problem.
Yeah. So for like what we were talking about, the comfrey study, if you take THC and you take a certain amount of it, your body has a natural set of systems to deal with the waste products that are generated from just having the THC in your body. Everything you take into your body produces a certain amount of waste because there's cellular activity, there's molecular changes, all of that stuff causes waste products. We have liver, kidneys.
Right.
We've got systems to deal with that.
Goes out fast, and some of it, like the THC, stays with us a while longer because of the fat solubility.
Yep, exactly. So we've got systems in place to handle that, and cannabis delivered to us THC and CBD at levels that were okay and compatible for us for centuries. And now over the last decade or less, probably 5 years or so, we've been breeding it to be so intensely strong with THC. I'm worried that we're getting to a point where it's going to become actually dangerous to use it. Like someone really could overdose and get hurt in the process. If all you're drinking is beer, it will take a long time to get psoriasis. You'll get it perhaps eventually, but it takes a really long time. And if you're drinking rum 151 instead, you're going to get psoriasis faster.
Because it's more concentrated.
Exactly. And if you decide to go with, grain alcohol that's 200 proof, you're going to get it really, really fast.
Right.
So cannabis was originally like beer. It was, designed that you could maybe spend a whole entire lifetime taking it and possibly even be okay or not get psoriasis till you're much, much older, depending on how often you were taking it. At the current levels, what do we have? you know, it's scary.
Yeah, we can change things pretty rapidly.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So like comfrey, if you take comfrey every single day and eat the whole plant every day, you're probably going to be fine. But if you look at the study, the infamous study, it looks like the PAs in it become dangerous. It's really because they were so ridiculously concentrated within that study.
Well, the study itself was, all the person was trying to do is say, all right, I have comfrey and there's these PAs. Does it change where you grow it? And he found out, in some garden settings, there aren't any PAs at all in the comfrey, that it doesn't need to manufacture that plant, just like, or manufacture that acid, just like in hemp. You give it a different growing area and a different.
It doesn't need it.
It doesn't need it necessarily, and then you have something that's living up in the mountains and it like has to defend itself, and some monster comes by and bullies it all the time or something. Whatever. Then it has to have a lot of PAs.
Right.
So that very thing that now we're adding. Oh, let's tinker around with the genetics.
Right.
And let's change this and let's change that and let's change the other thing. So, look at what we're doing.
To me, it's disconcerting. It's concerning to me.
Yeah. It makes me wonder. I'm a little worried about what the future might hold, but that statement can apply to just about every topic in my life right now.
True. Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, with the concentrations coming up, we have the increased possibility that someone dies from it.
Yeah,
sure.
And there will be somebody that overdoses.
Yeah, there will be eventually someone who actually disproves the statement that nobody's ever died from cannabis. It will happen because we're treating that plant like more and more like a vehicle for delivering a drug instead of.
Right. And as consumers, that's what, he was saying is that's what people are buying. They're not buying the lower percentage stuff. So, he's a business, so he's going to,
he's got to deliver what is,
deliver what, what they want and be able to do that. It's, I always equate it to the beer thing. I mean, people want, in the Northwest, there's this flavor profile for more and more and more hops in the beer.
Yeah.
So how many different ways can we infuse hops in the beer? And how can we get that IBU, the bittering units, way up through the roof?
Yeah, it gets to the point where it's really like just taking a strong drink of hops.
Yeah, it gets to that point. It's high alcohol and high hop count. And of course the consumer wants that, so the brewers brew that.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure in time it might come back again on that because it's a little bit different because of the taste idea. But it's hard to say if it'll come back on the cannabis thing. And if Oregon is already leading the charge in being one of the best producers in the country, then if we're dictating what's going to be produced, then we're going to have issues. And I think 14 states are on the ballot this year to legalize.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Ooh, to legalize recreational?
I believe so.
Wow.
That's big.
That is interesting. Eventually, the feds are going to have to pay attention to that.
Well, they are in the banking.
We don't have sessions there anymore.
And I was listening recently, and the banking is changing. The rules are changing for banking.
Oh, really?
I think they would be wise to make those changes. I mean, there's a lot of money that our government's missing out in with regard to cannabis, and there's a lot of money that the banking system's missing out in.
It's kind of like the lottery back in the 90s. Only a couple states had it, but then suddenly all the other states are looking, hey, we need to generate revenue. What are you doing? And they'd see these lotteries, and before you know it, it became nationwide. I don't think there's a state in the union that doesn't have a lottery of some sort.
Right.
So
when you talked before we started recording, you were talking a little bit about the fact that we don't have regulation for cannabis based on the levels of THC like we do in alcohol. We have, the percentage, the tax changes, structure changes based on how much alcohol or what the proof is.
The sky's the limit.
It seems to me that it would be actually probably wise and healthful or helpful to protect consumers to do the same sort of thing with cannabis, at least with regard to the THC.
Mm-hmm.
I question how high anyone would want CBD to get in it because it doesn't produce the high. So I don't think that's likely to drive up.
Yeah, this really is all about the THC at this point.
Yeah.
And I, to be honest, I haven't been in a bud shop to know what, does, and I would assume this, but, does a plant that gets at 20% cost way more than a plant that's at 5 or 10%?
Mm-hmm.
I would assume so based on all the other marketing thing I've known, that those certain strains. But if you get like a purple Kush from grower A and grower B, they're at totally different percentages, but it's the same strain. How do you price that? How do you know to price that as a purveyor, as someone that's selling it? How do you change the pricing structure on that, and how do you make that available? I mean, I just don't know.
Well, yeah, the CBD is what's going to drive the price up, or both of them are the THC.
Well, yeah, sure, but like we said, also, and the testing has changed dramatically. It's becoming more and more accurate. So when is the testing then applied and then put onto that bundle and say this pound of marijuana cannabis is 25% THC?
Right.
So it should be priced at this point.
I think that, of course, they're also testing for pesticides and stuff that. But I would be curious to see if they can start testing for some of the other properties, the flavonoids or different things like that. It also have a very healing effect on people. And that
would be nice to see research starting to be done on the whole plant.
Right. And
that would be really helpful.
It is possible that just as like you're talking about the body having a limited capacity to flush stuff out after, the recreational part is done, then is there things within existing cannabis already that would, I'm thinking specifically that would buffer it or would help a body take things out or, reduce the cotton mouth, or they're already there. We just haven't been testing for it, nor are there things that would help a larger variety for children taking the cannabis for their epilepsy. Is there side effects that the children are struggling with with more controlled hybridization that also allows for a wider spectrum and recognizes that that people with palsy, for example, we already know that vitamin B1 thiamine helps with that palsy, helps reduce that. It's in cannabis,
right?
So coupling that with somebody with epilepsy or a seizure disorder, why not test for all of that stuff, just like we have in a carton of dry oatmeal.
Right. Well, I find that frustrating, and why not use the whole plant for at least some of that?
Right. Sure.
Well, right, because they're just using the bud.
Right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, are all of those constituents that you might be thinking in just the bud, or do you need to have the buffer of leaf and other things in there too?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, when you look at traditional preparations from like centuries ago, it used the tops, the aerial parts, not just the bud, but the plant, the leaves and stuff too. I would guess that as a healing modality, it would be really better for us to, be testing for the various parts of the plant and be using the whole plant as, for medicine.
Right. At least test it. You may not, but find out, is there something in the stem that would be just as helpful? I know for hemp, of course, we're naturally using that, but
I understand what you mean. But
there's so much that we don't know. It doesn't mean we won't ever know.
Well, like you said, until someone needs to look for it, they won't find it.
Right.
You know, and that's exactly what these tests are. They're looking for specific things, and then someone says, well, let's look for this, and then they find it.
Yep. And how do they work together?
Well, and that's just it.
That's the piece that makes it more herbal, is that synergistic behavior. It is fabulous to find out how the individual parts of cannabis work, and the cannabinoids, and how they interplay with our bodies and with the other parts of that plant. But there's so much.
Even the roots.
The roots are,
holy cow, right?
Yeah,
all these parts of this plant that has been so diminished in value because of everyone wants the bud,
right? And
as herbalists, you it's the whole plant. It's not just the bud, but what's being sold is just the bud. So as an herbalist, you might either find a grower that that could give you the whole plant, or grow it yourself.
Yeah, well, I've thought about growing it myself too, but that smell will just draw potential problems into my yard.
It is a possibility, but the more common that it becomes, I think the less unique it is. Sometimes you can say, well, where's that? You don't even know where it's coming from. It could be just the wind. Sometimes I will be out walking on the parkway and in August is the worst. And we'll smell it, somebody around here is growing it.
Yeah. And there's different scents for them too. You wouldn't have to have the super musky, horrible one.
Yeah, there's citrusy ones, and there's piney ones, and there's other ones. But
but it's still,
stay away from anything diesel. I guess that would be
diesel and skunk smells are out.
Yeah, but the market is changing tremendously. I'm looking forward to seeing what. I'm just so happy they're finally doing research on this plant.
Yeah. You yourself, or
I personally am happy about that.
Yeah, I've been really a strong proponent of opening it up to recreational, because it also opens it up to research.
Right.
And I think we need that. And I really, really hope that researchers start looking at the whole plant and not just the bud.
Yep.
And start expanding beyond just the cannabinoids, because they're important, of course, but it's the other stuff the plant provides as well that's together. They work together.
I wonder if Oregon State has any kind of plan to be that for this area, because they're an egg school. That would be.
They are, but they're also federally funded.
Well, they're all federally funded, so.
Yeah, well, the banking industry and the federal government, and there's changes happening. So
maybe within a few years, and it's not just that silly. And I'm not going to say silly school, but I think one university in the entire country that has the monopoly on cannabis research is you can't read. It's not repeatable. Where's your scientific method?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Where's your gold standard?
So
that's not so gold standard.
No, it's just we just believe whatever they say, and I don't even think it's not even
it's Ole Miss.
I don't want to be disparaging. It could be a very good university. Is it Ole Miss?
That's got it.
That's a well-known school.
That's a well-known school. Yeah. There's other schools now that are doing research on it, and of course, there's tons of money in it.
Well, yeah.
So we'll see more changes, which would be great.
There's been rampant rumors, which I cannot confirm, that at various points in the Ole Miss program, the buds were not treated very well. Like they would be harvested and then just not stuck in a drawer, but essentially stuck in a drawer for however long. And then eventually a requisition came in maybe several years later, and that was what they pulled out. And, that was just
the one. Trusted it.
Yeah, it did. It sounded like if you knew cannabis well, some of their methods may not have been really wise,
right?
In terms of really providing, in terms of really providing good research material,
right? This isn't archaeology.
Yeah, and if someone from Ole Miss wants to reach out to us and let's having a conversation, love to have it.
Yeah,
it tell me we're completely wrong and tell us all about it. But it just with only having one school steeped in this kind of marijuana secrecy. Then that's when the rumor starts, and that's when things happen.
Sure, and that's there's no transparency in that, so you have to. That's why you have the scientific method, like you said, Patrick, or there's more people duplicating it and finding out. And that was one of the irritations that I had many years ago, as people were making these incredible statements about what cannabis could do, and I was like, you have no proof.
Right.
Yeah, it's all
You
hearsay.
know, you have
Yeah.
no proof. So just stop saying it because you're building this mythology that other people that are against it are able to throw in your face. So just stop
don't.
telling people this stuff. You don't.
It's not a panacea, people.
Yeah.
Not a panacea.
But there's
Definitely
great things it can do. We're not against cannabis. People, I know we'll get mail about this, but we're not against it.
Hey, we were against
wise
it.
use.
Would we have a grower come
Right?
on? We'd write a book about it. I mean, we're pro cannabis.
Yeah,
we're pro CBD.
Look, we want wise use and we want more information about it. We don't want the destructive ignorance to be thrown around, or we want people to be smart with what they're doing.
We want humanity
Healthy.
to treat Mother Nature's gifts to us with respect and intelligence.
That's right.
That's what we really want.
Yes. And we know that's not very fashionable these days.
But there it is.
There it is. Yes, the practical herbalists are not here to be fashionable.
No. I'm really glad that Andy took the time to come and talk to us.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I like the way that they do what they're doing. I like the fact that they're expanding into hemp in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to see that.
Yep.
And I'm glad I think they're going to be a good driving force in the market here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our market here is going to have an impact on many of the other markets. And
yeah, definitely.
So.
Yeah, he's definitely a leader in the community.
Yeah.
Yep. Good job, Andy. And thanks for all the hard work that they do at Emerald Valley Growers.
Growers, yeah.
Growlers.
Growlers, not the beer thing. Growers.
No.
Emerald Valley Growers. You can find them. They have a website. I think it's emeraldvalleygrowers.com. Instagram, you can use hashtag Emerald Valley Growers, a grower. And then he also can do hashtag EV Grower.
Yeah.
EV Growers.
EV Grower, yeah.
And you'll see a bunch of cool pictures and stuff. And again, you can't buy directly from Andy. He's a grower, so he supplies to shops. So if you're in the Eugene, Springfield area, or I guess up and down the I-5 corridor, if you want to try his product, he's available in quite a few different places.
Yeah, they've got a list. It's probably not as up to date as it should be,
Right.
but they've got a list on their website.
Right. He's one of the few growers, apparently, he said, that has their own shelf in any of the dispensaries.
Oh, nice. Wow, that's
So,
great.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, we want to remind people that there is information on our website. You can go to our show notes and see the links to things about cannabis if you're curious. And also just go to our website in general and search. There's so many articles on our website.
Right. And if you want to learn how to, a little bit more information about cannabis for medicinal purposes, that ebook that we have, the cannabis ebook.
Including things like what is decarboxylation.
Decarboxylation.
That's a big one.
What is that and how do you do it at home?
So Amazon.com, search the Practical Herbalist Press. You'll see all the books there, all the ebooks there, and cannabis is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an advanced herbal. It's not, this is what a cannabis plant is. It's beyond that. So,
and the other thing too is that if you're really interested, especially if you live in one of the states that's entertaining the idea of passing recreational, and you want to listen to we've done several. We started with the first year when they passed it. We have quite a few shows actually on cannabis.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about how it's changed our community, how things have changed.
The saga.
Yeah. If you want to get an idea of what it's looked like to go through that process here in Eugene and how that might look in your community, become an Herbal Nerd Society member, and you can get access to all of our old podcasts, which includes all the cannabis podcasts.
Yep.
That's right. So with that, I guess,
put an herb on it.
The statements made about herbs and products on this podcast have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided on this podcast or any affiliated websites is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professional. You should not use the information on this podcast and its affiliate websites for a diagnosis or treatment of any health problem. Always consult a healthcare professional before starting any new vitamin supplements, diet, or exercise program before taking any medication.